memorial to Ronald Brown. It's Ron Brown, the American in the Commerce Department when Clinton was president, who was killed near here.
Important public building of the city-state of Dubrovnik. This was the rector's palace. So in Venice, the Doge was the head of state. So you go and you visit the Doge's palace. Dubrovnik had a rector, so this is the rector's palace. When it comes to Dubrovnik, Dubrovnik was an aristocratic republic, which means it was ruled by the noble families. And they're very, very protective of their circle. For example, the nobility of Dubrovnik was known to practice the most strict form of endogamy, basically marriage, sort of between different members of different social classes, was no, it wasn't allowed. And lived in Dubrovnik around 2000, so 1/3 were noblemen. And they were the ones that held all the power.
Amazingly, Dubrovnik, as a republic, was one of the first places in the world to recognize the new United States of America after the Revolutionary War. This is the Door of Mercy, and twice a week the government gave food away to the poor. This is also abolished slavery in the 1400s. I think it was 1418. This is a cathedral, finished in 1713 after the earthquake.
The foundations of a previous one. So originally on this spot we had a cathedral built in the 12th century, which was completely destroyed by the 1667 earthquake. And
one of the guests just noticed the stairway to heaven on the top of the church. Here we are, the harbor where we had hoped to be parked.
Surrounding all the neighborhoods and how the walls stretch around the city. In fact, have cannons as well. And when you think that the walls stretch for 1.2 miles, and now when I tell you that on the walls we had around 200 cannons, well, yeah, well, we can conclude that really every meter, like there was a cannon. So it was a very well protected city. And now it's clearing up. So the cross actually is showing us the highest point of Surge Mountain, so 1,350 feet, and the orange cable car going up as well. Basically, the old shipyard where the ships were built. And what's interesting to say is that where those arches are, when they were building a ship, those arches would be sealed with bricks. They would do that to prevent foreign spies noting the shipbuilding secrets, because the shipbuilders from Dubrovnik, together with the shipbuilders from England and Portugal, were considered to be the most skilled when it came to building those wooden galleons. Well, basically, to have one of those wooden ships built, 900 gold coins would be the equivalent of 7 pounds of gold. So they used to say, if you were a wealthy ship owner, it wasn't a lot of money. What made the ships expensive was the, shall we say, equipment, sort of the sails, the weapons, the anchors, which the ships had. But to build a wooden ship as such, it wasn't too expensive. And the city-state of Dubrovnik, although it was just a tiny republic, as I said, at the largest, at the highest point of its prosperity, it stretched for 45 miles along the coast. That's it. So it was very small. The population varied over those 450 years between 25 to 85,000 people. But for such a small country, they managed to perform miracles. They owned a fleet of 200 large ships. And they didn't only sail around the Adriatic Sea, not at all. They established a large chain of trading colonies all over the Adriatic, all over the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea. They extended their trade all the way up north. They sailed to Germany, to Hamburg. They sailed across the English channels. Then in the 16th century, they sailed all the way to Goa, spices. They sailed to India. And in Goa, the city-state of Dubrovnik, they established their little community and they built a church. So still nowadays there is a church of Saint Blaise in Goa, built red, roof red. That is the main quarantine building of the city-state of Dubrovnik. And again, imagine they come up to this idea in 1377. to keep, of course, the goods sailer ships isolated for a certain period of time to see if any diseases would develop. The fortress of St. John to the breakwater. The chain would be lying at the bottom of the sea during the day. At night time, or if they spotted enemy ship, they pull the chain up in order to stop the ships from entering the harbour. And this
Commonly had 200 ships here at any one time, most of them outside of this protected harbor. It's the road we were on yesterday coming into town where we couldn't see a thing.
Market scenes, and at
From
the
the
end
Game
of
of
the
Thrones
season, when the queen walks that walk of shame where she's naked and are throwing things at her, calling her names, actually she walks down this street. Steps actually lead to this large complex, the Dominican monastery. So the Dominicans were the first to come to Dubrovnik, 1225, which in a way is telling us that it must have been a well-known place because the Dominican order was established in 1216. So only 9 years after the establishment of the Dominican order, we had them here in Dubrovnik. The first group of
built in 1315.
and they've built the library in 1551, which again the year is telling us how ahead of time the city-state of Dubrovnik was. The first public library to open in Florence, which was considered to be like the center of culture, opened 49 years after the one here in Dubrovnik. So they Orlando was the name of this medieval knight. It did not exist. Let's say all over Western European countries, we have many poems written about Roland, this well-known brave medieval soldier. And then the legend has it that in the 9th century, he helped the citizens of Dubrovnik chase away the Arabs, the Saracens, who kept Dubrovnik under siege for 15 months. So he's again another symbol of the wish of the city to maintain its independence. In the past, all state declarations would be read from that platform on the top of the column, and criminals would be executed at the base of the column. Of course, all executions were made publicly, so to teach everybody a lesson. This is what will happen, if you don't stick it to the rules. The column is important for the city-state of Dubrovnik as well, because the city-state was the merchant center, and the level of the forearm of the knife, so measured from the top of the middle finger to the elbow, it is 51 centimeters, around 25 inches, more or less, and that was the standard measure of unit of the city-state of Dubrovnik. So all the merchants dealing with, let's say, cloth, selling cloth, they would be kneeling in front of it. Chiseled in the stone is the length, 51 centimeters, and in order not to cheat the customers, they actually were measuring right in front of them. The building, which is behind us, was built in the 1520s. It had several purposes. Several offices were inside the building. So, for example, one of the offices was the weights and measures office. And every year, for example, merchants had to bring their scales to be checked and calibrated by that weights and measures office.
Just a few people here in October.
Now, all these kind of warnings.
They're all.
So the most important church is the cathedral, which is right at the far end. But the second most important one is the Church of St. Blaise. Although this would be the most beloved church because it's the church of the patron saint. And on his feast day, which falls on February the 3rd every year, apart from that special mass that we have, of course, to bless the throat, but we have another lovely procession. And that procession, which takes on a parade ritual, takes the relics of St. Blaise in 2009. Was added to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity as well. So that
Many Jewish families that escaped from Portugal and Spain in the 1400s came here. The Ottomans welcomed them. Ottomans gave this neighborhood to the Jews, and that was the Jewish ghetto, and there's a synagogue.
the Jewish families had their own synagogue, which after the one is a Sephardic, of course, a synagogue, and it's considered to be the second oldest after the one in Prague. So it was the only non-Roman Catholic place of worship ever permitted on the territory of the Republic. So, Jewish families were seen as important members of the
Here's another one of these steep streets. This one goes and goes and goes way up there.